Good afternoon, good morning. It's Mark Johnson from Loyalty 360. I hope everyone's happy, safe, and well. Welcome back to Loyalty Live. Looking forward to the discussion today. This Loyalty Live series is a series where we talk to the leaders in customer channel and brand loyalty about the technology and trends and best practices that impact a brand's ability to drive unique experiences, enhance engagement, but most importantly, customer loyalty. In the month of April, we are embarking on a mini series of Loyalty Live sessions looking forward to the trends that will likely shape the months ahead. So today we have the pleasure of speaking with Sue Frech, who is the CEO at Vesta. It's been a while. Sue, how are you?
Good. Thank you, Mark, so much for having me. I'm excited to talk to you today.
Absolutely. Glad to hear that things are well with you and looking forward to this little session here. Can you tell us a little bit about your background, the company, what you guys do, and how you do it?
Yeah, sure. So I'm, as you said, the founder and CEO of Vesta. We're a marketing technology company. We really deliver software as well as methodology, but it's a platform to help marketers build, grow, and manage their online brand-owned communities. So we talk about being leaders in the community-powered marketing space. That's where we're driving deeper loyalty, engagement from a brand's audience. You know, my background is that I started on the brand side, Kraft and GSK, but I really spent the majority of my career in digital, social, MarTech startups, really focusing on consumer engagement and activation. And for our clients, we deliver full service consumer engagement platform designed to leverage that audience that I talked about. And we really have a lot of different solutions between, helping brands drive emotional loyalty and really making impactful actions.
Okay. Absolutely. You guys do some great work. I know a number of your clients, and I think the interest in communities and kind of being able to leverage that in a unique way, especially as data changes, data requirements, data privacy is very powerful. And what you guys do is very advantageous for marketers. So it's great to continue to see what you guys do.
Great. Thanks.
So, we've been through a lot in the last year. I think it's collectively changed us not only as people, but obviously as consumers as well. What do you see as the primary way or primary manner in which consumers have changed or evolved over the past year?
I mean, I think you'd agree, Mark. It has been incredible to see how resilient customers are, as well as companies. And, we did, as I think I might have talked about before, something called the COVID Brand Sentiment Navigator Study. So we actually went out to our community and had a survey of over 40,000 respondents. Really started at the beginning of the pandemic and took us all the way through October. So every month we would survey these consumers, and we heard things like, we're tired of the "we're here for you" and "we're with you" messaging. But overall, the sentiment remained really high for brands, and consumers leaned on the brands that they love or that they needed during this time period. We know that health and safety became a top priority, and certainly e-commerce became sort of the center, but we were excited to see how impactful, important community was, and how many consumers and people turned to their communities, whether it was for self-care or for hobbies or really as a resource, through homeschooling and parenting ideas. They went to other people to have conversations with like-minded other members of communities. And what we love is that brands can be part of that conversation in a really authentic way.
Absolutely. We, in the first edition, the Q1 edition of our digital magazine, we really looked at some of the changes. The top 3 trends were highlighted in that magazine. And we want to obviously drill down on some of those today because those are really impacting brands and their ability to drive unique experiences, engagement, position themselves to succeed in this, challenging, dynamic, and evolving time for marketers. So the first area we kind of saw is data integration. Data obviously is very important. It's talked about continually. It's almost banal. I think brands know what they need to do, but actually doing it can be a challenge. How do you think brands need to or should be looking at data, not just to meet their needs, but to exceed that involvement with their customers?
Yeah, I love this topic. I love talking data with you especially. I think that, there are a lot of challenges with it, but I've really boiled it down to 2 main challenges. The first is that what marketers that think this data is going to be limitless and this sort of fire hose is going to be here forever are going to be challenged. This data continues to challenging to capture, especially when you think about how consumers are less trusting about giving up their data. We laugh that, the CCPA put out this regulation where you need to have a button that says, do not sell my data. In our communities, we actually don't ever sell the data, but that button can be really frightening. It can be alarming. So it can really reduce the amount of data that brands are able to collect. I think one of your other Loyalty Live sessions, you said, in 2 years, only 10% of consumers are going to be identifiable. So that's remarkable, really challenging again for marketers to rely on that data. I think the second challenge is that they're being asked by CMOs and CEOs to really create data-driven engagement. So they need that data to make decisions and to really power things like incremental sales or brand loyalty or improve marketing communications. So marketers, they're being asked to do this, what we call like magic trick. You have to respect the data, look at the data security, protect the data. But on the other hand, as a consumer, I want high quality experiences, rich experiences, personalized experiences. So we just talk about, making sure that you're using the data in a way that you can also communicate the why. Why are you collecting this data? Giving a consumer the reasons behind it, and how does that data align with your values and what it is you're delivering? And what role does that data play in your overall delivery of better products and services?
Absolutely. When we talk with brands, the brand community, the member community, integrating disparate data sets can be a challenge, right? Do you need a CDP? Do you need kind of a DMP or a DM? Kind of different data sets obviously have different challenges, and being able to take them and action on them can be, challenging. How many data points do you need? So I think there is a huge opportunity there. And what do you see and what do you recommend to help brands kind of action these disparate data sets and sources to enhance their customer experiences to lead to more connected consumers?
Yeah, and I love that you use the word action, because that is also part of it, making sure you're using the data. I laugh, first there's too much data, and then we have to find the right data. Now we're really seeing this issue of siloed data. So really making sure that within your organization that you have a set of data that you can look at, that you're really seeing a single source. You're able to look at this consumer or customer from multiple platforms, but in one place. This is our ability to make sure that we're delivering a very personalized experience no matter what touch point that consumer might have. Because the worst thing you can do is have a great personalized experience in one place, and then obviously, a really less satisfying or miscommunication in another place. And that can, again, really happen by having those silos. So I think that's a cultural thing, making sure that in your organization that you have that ability to bring that data together, but also analyze it and leverage those insights in a way that makes it impactful. Really making sure you're establishing this central own channel for that main point of entry for that consumer data. And that's our recommendation, having that single view from multiple data sources.
Absolutely. How do you help, or what do you suggest that brands do to optimize their data collection to help enhance that real-time delivery, the relevant interactions to consumers across channels? Well, what do you recommend, and how do you help brands optimize that data collection?
Yeah, I think it'd be so simple if I say, just go out and get the data and then make sure you use it. But no, really the answer is it's about this framework, establishing a framework, a process, having the right technology to collect that valuable first party data and that freely offered the zero party data, because that's giving you the context around that individual and that audience that you have. So having that solid foundation to have 360-degree view of your customer. But the challenge can be, you have your CRM, your DMP, but customers and consumers can be really more discerning about where and when they're willing to give the data. So that onus, again, is on the brands to make sure that they're communicating why, the value. So we really say you have to have a strong value proposition. Make sure that, one, you're enticing consumers, making it easy for them to share the data, and two, you're being very transparent as to how you're going to use that data. If you have both those things in place, it's going to make it easier for you to deliver those better, more personalized and more engaging experiences.
Absolutely. Zero-party data, very important, especially as we go to an environment potentially where only 10% of the customers are going to be identifiable. You have risks between Facebook and Apple and Google and Oracle. As I'm sure you saw that lawsuit was finally settled.
Yeah.
There's a great challenge right now in getting first-party data and third-party data. In my opinion, is going the way of the dodo bird. You really have to get to that zero-party data to create those unique data points and on maybe potentially fewer customers, but more involved, more engaged, more, the increased depth. How can people use zero-party data? Maybe even just, for those who may not know what zero-party data is or declared data is, how can they use that to differentiate from their competitors?
Yeah, I mean, we are such strong believers in making sure that you have a way, and again, a process and a methodology and technology to capture that zero-party data, because the zero-party data is the data that, the consumers are willingly, knowingly giving up to brands and companies and marketers, but they expect something in exchange. So you can have access to the insights that can help you with innovation, can help you with competitive intel, certainly developing new products, making sure your messaging's on point. That alone, this proprietary information gives you a competitive advantage. But zero-party data also helps you create that emotional connection. So we talk about, and I know you've talked about this lots of your guests, about that emotional loyalty. So different from transactional loyalty, which is critical. It's going to drive purchase, but that emotional loyalty is going to drive that lasting loyalty. So zero-party data, by really knowing and understanding who your audience is and your consumers, their beliefs, their values, that context around it, that's what's going to drive the lasting loyalty. And so that's why we see the zero-party data so critical. And just making sure, if you're listening, that you're ensuring you have a way of being able to capture it, but also analyze it and use it.
Absolutely. The next trend that we saw from our survey and then in the Q1 magazine was personalization. Obviously, very, very important. Again, what it means, how to do it. There's some confusion there with brands. They know they have to get to more personalized engagements, online, offline, what channel it may be. So this idea of hyper-personalization is something we see and hear more about. What does hyper-personalization mean to you?
Yeah, I think more for hyper-personalization, and I was so glad when I saw that in the top trends and did comment on it. I mean, for us, it's more, what is it not? So it's not when someone does a search of something and then all of a sudden they get an ad for it. It's not when when a marketer looks at the buying behavior and looks at the purchase history and says, now I can send ads. It's not when you deliver a CRM message to a segment, parents, for example, and say, okay, now I'm delivering personalization. So it's more about making sure that customers are feeling not just seen, not just heard, but really understood. And that's where we're saying it's the next level. That hyper-personalization can be a way for brands to make sure that consumers know that they understand where they're coming from. What are their needs? And their needs change. And that's what's so great about hyper-personalization, is that you can continue to deliver offers, content, products, services that are relevant in those moments. And that's the hyper-personalization as well. Because again, just searching for a product and delivering an ad, that is not what her hyper-personalization is. And it ties back to that emotional piece, because if you have access to those insights, that context, you are really able to deliver the messaging in a deeper and more relevant way. And that's going to have staying power. So that hyper-personalization is going to be a huge benefit for your brand in the long term.
Absolutely. How can delivering these hyper-personalized messages, the offers, experiences, lead to that long-term improved customer loyalty, the increases in customer lifetime value? What are you seeing there?
Yeah, I mean, there's a research study that McKinsey had released that talked about personalization can deliver 5 to 8 times more ROI on marketing spend and can lift sales by more than 10%. It is worth the time to capture that data and use the tools and technology that's going to allow you to deliver that hyper-personalization. And the great thing is that with the technologies, you can do it at scale. So it's not having a one-off conversation with each individual, but it is that ability to deliver that hyper-personalization at scale. So those segments are really important. We do a lot of things with our insight studies, highly segmentation through the research that we're doing. And this, again, gives us that ability to deliver these really unique digital experiences, because lasting loyalty is not not going to come from give me a discount and I'm going to buy from you. So it's really going to be about creating these highly targeted engagements and bringing that consumer into the brand fold. And that's what's going to deliver, obviously, the ROI, that positive ROI and the change in ROI.
Metrics, obviously, are very important now. Technology, getting them to work, very challenging and expensive. So KPIs are more important today than they ever have been. So brands want to track, they want to measure, they want to benchmark. When you look at that, how do you suggest brands track and measure this incrementality around personalization? Right, you talked about the McKinsey study and the 10% lift, and that is obviously very important. But how can you help that marketer, that CMO, go back to that CFO and say, "Yeah, here's what we got."
Yeah. And what I love is that with the community, we have all of those data points. So once you have built your community on our Vesta platform, we do something that we call the Community Power Index. And the Community Power Index is a way for us to track and measure the inputs that go into consumer engagement. So that's the personalization, all of the activities, activations, the insights, and we look at what outputs they produce. They produce things like loyalty, measuring loyalty over time, engage participation, net promoter score, purchase intent, likelihood to recommend, the volume of user-generated content, monthly purchases, lift in monthly purchases. So again, this Community Power Index is a study that we do twice a year. We look at all of the data within the communities. We benchmark against other communities of like size and like tenure, and then we tell you ways that you can pull the lever to improve in certain areas. So if you know driving long-term loyalty is important for you, we're going to look at that with our loyalty study. If you're looking at household penetration, we're going to look at monthly purchases across different product SKUs. And then you can tie all of this data into other systems. So this is into your CRM and your larger databases to really understand how is the community and the personalization really impacting sales overall.
Okay, great. When you look at getting to that individual level, that individualized level, the data and everything that goes into that, again, brands know what they need to do, but they are sometimes challenged with regard to how to get there, from how different technologies are sold to them and how they integrate and if they work or do not work. But do you have a point or two brands that maybe they can consider with regard to how they get to there? How do they get to that one-to-one message? What are some things that they should be doing when they're looking to communicate but truly achieve that unique personalization?
Yeah, I think, again, it goes back to that framework, having technology and partners that are going to help you get the right data so that you can make those decisions. I think the one-to-one to many also, just being able to do the one-to-one at scale. So making sure that you know who's in your audience and how you're communicating with them. The richness of that data is going to allow you to achieve those different levels of hyper-personalization that really gets consumers to engage, get your customers to engage. If they feel that they're having a one-on-one conversation, they're building that relationship, they're going to tell other people about it. And that's how you're going to reach their audiences. So I think that one-to-one, that messaging is, you're going to think of it as segments within your larger audience, and the data will help you get there. And the technology that's available, whether it's through our platform or lots of other platforms that are out there that help you deliver personalized messaging. But again, making sure that you're able to create this framework and this engine for data collection is going to be key to being able to deliver any messaging, whether it's at one-to-one or whether it's to the masses.
Okay. Another trend, agility. Marketers were very challenged going through COVID, still are challenged, right? How do we respond? New York may be open, Colorado may be closed. Nimble is kind of a new word, or kind of an old word that has new meaning now. Very important to brands. They need to be creative. They need to be responsive. They need to have empathy. When you look at the ability to differentiate themselves, how important is being nimble? And when you look at the creative, or some maybe even being able to respond with empathy, how important is it for brands to use those strategies to differentiate themselves from their customers, or consumers, should I say, or no, competitors? I got that right. The third C word, competitor.
So here's what's so interesting is that we have found during brand planning. So it used to be 10 years ago, you brand planned and you planned possibly for the whole year. Particularly during the pandemic, obviously we all had to shift. We were really put through the ringer this year. The good news is that I think all marketers realize that they have that ability to adapt and to change. But I've also seen a trend over this year where they're not planning for the whole year. Maybe it's the pandemic, and maybe it's, they know that they don't know where things are going to be. And that's a good thing. Knowing that you don't know something is okay as well. But I think it's given us this ability to be comfortable in being flexible and nimble. What I love about it is that when you have an audience, a community, you have this ability to make decisions in near real time. And that's important. So if there's a shift in politics, if there's a shift in, you believe in something today and you're behind that today and you need to change that messaging, you have that ability to do that with your community. So that ability to be nimble is really important. But I don't want to mistake that for the flying by the seat of your pants, so saying that, okay, the marketers we're working with today aren't planning for 12 months. It doesn't mean they're not planning. It just means they're planning maybe quarter by quarter, or they're planning for the next, 4 to 6 weeks, but they're able to use the technology and the data to make decisions in near real time. And that's, again, giving them, I believe, a competitive advantage. We always talk about technology being agile and working in sprints. Why do we do that as a technology company? It allows us to shift and change based on the needs of our customers in the market. But I think that's what marketers are also doing. They're really leveraging that agility and the technology and the data to be able to make decisions in near real time. And I think that's powerful. And whether they were planning to do that before or the pandemic forced them to do it, I actually think we're in a good place to help future-proof brands for no matter what happens.
Okay. We talked earlier about some of the changes with regard to data privacy. We believe that customer loyalty is going to be more important than ever before, having not only great programs, but strategies and technology and tactics. How much more important do you think customer loyalty will be moving forward?
I think customer loyalty is so critical for brands. No one can argue that. So, which is why I love being part of Loyalty 360 in your organization. But what I'll say is that I see a shift in organizations, in their culture, or how operationally they look at loyalty. So it used to be siloed. I mean, there were, one person that's in charge of loyalty. You look at it today, it's about the customer experience. It's any touch point with that customer should be tied back to how is this helping us drive loyalty. So before when it was transactional, it was, okay, you give me a discount, I'm going to buy from you. That would have been considered loyalty. Today, loyalty for us is, does the brand make me feel a certain way? Does it help me feel, project an image of myself that I like? Does it make me feel like I belong? Am I being heard? Am I able to give feedback? Am I able to impact the brand? So marketers will be able to build that stronger emotional connection if there are more departments, and as an organization, more people and teams, even product, are looking at how they are helping drive loyalty. So again, loyalty has always been important. It's important to us as an organization, all of our clients, but I do think it's a shift in how they're looking at it and how important they're making it across the organization, which I'm excited is growing.
Absolutely. A lot of the points you have and just made are very salient to, I think, kind of what we see, especially from a marketer perspective. And I also think that the technology the brands need to leverage or integrate or, to understand is very important as well. So that creates kind of a challenge as well. You have to be, agile in that regard. When you look at the right technology mix that marketers need to execute customer experience and customer loyalty strategies, how important is that? How important is it to get the technology stack right?
Critical. I actually don't think it can be done right without it. So, and what the great thing is, there's so many partners, especially in your organization, that can work together. But if they're not working together, it's not going to work. So that key word is the integration of it. A lot of technology and solutions make promises, but you really want to make sure that the solutions that you're working with and the partners you have can work together, because the 1 + 1 does equal 3. So again, it's not about picking one technology solution. It's about looking at what's available out there, making sure that those technology partners can help you achieve your goals and can really help you measure that ROI. The one thing I always say is that technology has to make our lives easier. It's there. It has to be able to protect the data, protect the consumer's data, but it has to really make and create more efficiencies and deliver more with less. So if you're investing in technology, it's to be able to deliver a greater return than if you didn't have it before. But I think the key to picking any technology is about that integration, because you have systems already in place and you have partners in place. So it's really making sure that whoever you're bringing in can really work well with what you've already got in place. Even if it's replacing something, it's got to make sure that it does more than what you had before and is going to save you time and resources.
Absolutely. And when you look at artificial intelligence, neural networks, machine learning are obviously kind of new buzzwords we're hearing, not necessarily new, but those can create a lot of confusion as well with regard to what they are, what they do, how they do it. But they are very important to leverage them, especially in a meaningful and measurable way. What are you seeing regarding artificial intelligence and machine learning, and how brands can leverage them to remain nimble, to engage customers and consumers in a unique way, especially coming through the pandemic?
I love that with AI and all of the data that we collect, that we are able to help marketers, help consumers and their customers know what they want before they even know what they want. So looking at the patterns of patterns, looking at the trends before they're happening, before they become a trend. And that's what I love about the AI component. But at the end of the day, bad data going in is going to be bad insights coming out. So you can leverage the software and the AI component of it, the machine learning. But if you don't have that ability to capture the smart data and the rich data and the relevant data, those inputs in aren't going to do anything for you, no matter what type of technology you layer on top of it. So we really say strong data with personal context is going to drive quality AI at the end of the day.
Absolutely. So when you look at new trends or other new trends or areas of opportunities brands should be focused on, especially coming through this post-pandemic recovery, what do you see as those trends or kind of technologies that should be playing a pivotal role for marketers throughout the remainder of 2021 and beyond?
Yeah, I think that the data security continues. So data overall, of course, but specifically around data security and data privacy. You said it, Google, Facebook, just looking at, Apple, data that's going away, consumer trust that's disappearing. I think really having a plan and a focus about how you're going to handle those changes is going to be critical. And relying on third-party channels, brands will miss out. So just making sure you've got a place and a function, a way to capture that data. I think purpose is the second thing. Brands that have a strong purpose, that can tell their story, their beginnings. That's why so many startup brands do well. But having a strong brand purpose and a way to communicate that will help drive loyalty. I think having values, I think more than ever, we saw in 2020 that if you are not aligned with consumers' values, you're a brand or you're a retailer and you are not aligned with consumers' value, you will see them not supporting you. You may even see a boycott. So this is an opportunity to make sure that you're delivering on your brand values and making sure you're communicating that, because that trust, again, has gone down. It's certainly gone down from politics and organization leaders. I think consumers still trust brands today. Edelman did their brand, their trust barometer survey. And I think 61% of consumers say that they trust companies. They're leaning on companies and brands. And then I think you said it before, the last thing is empathy. Empathy-driven storytelling. It goes back to that emotion, but really knowing a consumer, your customers, what they want and what they need, and being able to bring them into that storytelling is going to build that emotional loyalty, which at the end of the day for us is the lasting loyalty.
Okay, great. Yeah, definitely agree with the brand. People want to trust. They want to have that unique relationship. It's not going to be the same relationship you have kind of from a trust perspective with your wife or your kids or what have you, but they want to be able to trust brands in a kind of a unique way, a different way. And I think understanding that, it gets back to having a community or having the ability to listen to and understand what the customer is, their expectations are and how they may be evolving, and having a robust community like you have that you provide is obviously very pivotal in that process.
Yeah, we think so. Having that audience and that feedback loop is critical. Absolutely.
Well, great. Well, Sue, it's always a pleasure talking with you. Great to hear what you guys are doing, and thank you for taking the time to share some of your insight. You're a thought leader in this industry. You do amazing work, and it's always a pleasure talking to you. And great insight today, as always.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. I appreciate you having us on. Thanks, Mark.
Absolutely. And make sure everyone who's watching, listening, tune back in this Friday at 1, and we'll have another great session. And again, thanks, Sue.
Thank you.